So I'm 33 years old. I come from a single parent family household headed by my mom. My dad and her did not get along, and they got a divorce when I was about 6 years old. So in terms of education, I have a bachelor's degree, a diploma in education. I started my master's, but I didn't hand in a thesis. Um, I met my partner a couple of years ago, and after about a few months of knowing each other, less than 6 months, we moved in together, and we lived together for a year before we got married. He had a child from a previous relationship, and after we got married, we had a child together.
Okay, so you all lived together for 1 year prior to marriage, to legal marriage, and before that you all moved in. Well, you said before that you dated for 6 months, so it was a year and a half then.
Yeah.
All right. And could you tell me a bit more about, the family structure you came from with your mom and your dad, and well, how that went for you? How was the relationship in the beginning?
Okay. He was very insecure, so it's similar to the abuse that I would have experienced in my marriage. He was insecure and controlling. She couldn't visit her friends, so she ended up having less than three. She had about 2 friends. I remember she had to carry me everywhere she was going because he felt that when I was there, she couldn't be with someone else then. So I basically got to know how mommy make groceries, how to deal with things in the bank. I was very mature very quickly because, she talking to me, I right there with her right through the day. Everything she's doing, I'm there. She was always accused of infidelity, and they argued very frequently. Nighttime, I'll be hearing them arguing all the time. What else, boy? Yeah, that was basically it. She left him a couple times. But the major leave was when, they got divorced when I was 6, and then they tried again. So they started back the relationship, and the major separation after the divorce was when I was around 12.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they rekindled their relationship around, how old were you?
The divorce was probably, they started back when I was around 9. Yeah, and then they ended it off completely when I was around 12. So that lasted for 3 years.
Okay. But divorced at this point?
Yes. They rekindled after the divorce.
On your dad's side, he was controlling. He had controlling behavior. Any types of other abuse that you think your mom would have experienced that you would have known about, or?
Stalking. Definitely stalking. He hired our business. Okay, my parents are business people, so growing up they had business at home through my entire life, and he would hire staff members particularly to spy on my mother. So they would tell him when she's leaving home. He would meet her where she is, because they would sell out where she's going. Say she had to get something in Pennywise, she couldn't go without him knowing, or else that would be like a whole big scenario. What else, boy? Right, so he would hide it, then he would go through her garbage. He would go through her dirty clothes. It was a lot of extreme type of behavior. I didn't know about it in such detail. I know that he would have her stalked, because you're wondering like, oh, this person just randomly appearing all the time, kind of way. But the things like going through her stuff, she talked about it with me. When she heard what I was going through, she started to open up about things that she went through, and it was kind of incredible how very similar. Yeah, it was.
So you said you and your partner. We want to get back to you and your ex-husband in this case, or ex-partner. You all were living together for 1 year. You dated for 6 months prior to that. Do you think that being in a common law relationship helped you to, or not being in a common law relationship, but living with him prior to making the decision of getting married, helped you in any way to assess the relationship?
I think I ignored all your red flags, I mean, if you're really wise and you're sitting and you're trying to look for red flags in order to make decisions, of course, living with the person prior would definitely make sense. But without the tools, meaning understanding what a relationship should be, knowing what is good and what is bad, going for things like therapy for yourself and even as a couple, you know, to be guided by someone, understanding boundaries and certain things that supposed to be known before you enter into that type of living arrangement. You wouldn't know better. You would just assume, well, then he must really love me. He will have my hand and kiss me in front of all these people. All this time, the man trying to, you know, assert himself.
You realize, well, it wasn't really public. It wasn't PDA. It was more his possessiveness. His, you know, claiming his territory, I guess, for him in front of people.
Yes, but
what was your initial thoughts about him, you know, when, you know, get into a relationship for the first time, kind of like, you know, well, you had all the butterflies, we relate on this aspect of life. Tell me a bit about the relationship, well, if there was any positives, tell me a little bit about, in the beginning, what you thought of him, what was your feelings towards him?
In the beginning, he was absolutely perfect. You know, so I mean, I would never think of living with somebody so easily, but he made himself available. He made himself extremely helpful. He was receptive. He listened. He responded in I mean, you know, sometimes you would watch a movie and you see, oh, so how she didn't know that about the guy before? It's because they play a role. They literally play a role. And, you know, again, I wouldn't say they didn't have any red flags, you know, but because the good was so much and so intense, you know, I just kind of ignore those things. I say, well, that must be nothing, man. And you take his word for it, you know? Yeah. It was intense. If I could get one word, intense and addictive.
Prior to going into this relationship, in any of your past relationships, did you experience or witness any sort of abuse? Or
yes, in my relationship before him, just the one just before that, we drank a lot together and we partied a lot, and the alcohol and the partying would lead to fighting. So it actually became physical at least twice. On both accounts, like I was physically violent to him and he was physically violent to me as well, so I can't blame him in any way. I don't even want to blame it on the alcohol. I think that that is just something that you have to be aware of. One, alcohol abuse, and how to handle yourself when you're angry with someone. Again, that's tools. If you don't have tools in terms of how to deal with an argument, then, you know, regardless of whether you're drunk, you're sober, you just wouldn't know how to solve a problem. I mean, drunk makes it a lot worse. But yeah, you need to.
Under the influence, you know.
Yeah.
But that is actually a type of intimate partner violence. You know, it's not always where one person is a victim. There's situational couple violence.
Wow, okay. Yeah, my hand was bitten. I had teeth marks on my hand. Yeah, after a party, we got into an argument and he decided to bite my hand, and I freaked out.
What led to these arguments then?
I don't know. Like unfortunately, when I get drunk, I don't remember anything when I get back sober. So he could tell me a whole lot of things happen and I just had to go with it. So he told me I was misbehaving and you need to get me under control. Well, he was a little drunk. He bite my hand. You know, so I don't know. I just remember freaking out. I remember being in pain and feeling as though this person was abusive. I remember I ran into the police station and asked for help and nobody wanted to help.
Tell me about the incident that made you realize your partner was displaying abusive behavior. Even if you rekindle the relationship after that, what was the first click in your head? Wait, no, this isn't, you know, as you say, perfect, or, you know, he was doing all the things and he was just completely perfect. What incident made you realize, well, wait a minute, he's not perfect?
The incident for me was when he read my diary and he denied it. But he kept accusing me of things that obviously I had to read my diary to know. I mean, the things from in my past. It's not to say things that happened when we were together, but, you know, people write things to express, to remember, to come to terms with their emotions. But I'm talking about people who I would have known before I was with him, he is throwing things in my face. I'm like, how you could know that? You understand? In terms of the way in which you're saying it. Obviously, I read my diary. So when I'm asking him about it, he is denying this, and that let me know something wrong. Besides the fact that you're doing something so crazy and inappropriate, you're denying it. So you're not psychic, so how would you know these things? And that made me know something was wrong. In addition to that, he tried to isolate me by turning me against my friends. He always telling me negative things about all of my friends, and he tried to turn my family against me. So he would be calling them and complaining and taking pictures of things that I would write. Sometimes you fall out with your mom or somewhere and you write about it.
Yeah.
Right. So he want to show them the things that I write. So yeah, that was that, and I realized this can't be right. I mean, I don't think that I should have to suffer that in order to give my child a father. I don't find I should be dealing with so much emotional pain because I'm trying to give her a nuclear family that I didn't have. That's not right.
Right, and I think that's very important to note, because a lot of people, it's like, well, why didn't leave and stuff, but not having that nuclear family, that was probably a desire,
Very big, yeah.
Doing everything in your power to just keep that and try to give that to your, as you said, to give that to your child. And you said he told your family things that you were saying about them all.
Yeah. And I found that to be a real breach of trust, and it was hurtful. It felt like, okay, so I can't tell you anything then. So now every time I'm talking to him, I'm walking on eggshells because I don't know what I can and cannot say. Because you say you're sorry, you say it wouldn't happen again, but I mean, how you could trust a liar though? If it is, you say you wouldn't do this and you went and you do it, how can I believe that you would stop doing those kinds of things?
And that's actually a form of controlling behavior. It falls under the category of invading your privacy, things like reading your journals, and it's also isolation, by trying to humiliate you in front of your family, as well as telling you negative things about your friends, basically cutting off the network of people you have who may find this behavior as well to be quite dysfunctional.
Yes. Yes. And you know what else? Actually, before I got pregnant, we were planning to go and live in the wilderness together.
Oh.
This was So this was like supreme isolation. We were going to go out there and make our life in the bush, whereby it's like a totally self-sustainable, and you're not dependent on the government for anything. You're going to find your way in terms of water, electricity, food, through gardening, and I mean, it's only when I had my child did I understand that is completely ludicrous, because you need support.
Yeah.
You need support, and I realized that it was a form of isolation as well, because I mean, if I felt like a prisoner in my house that I had already, how would I be if we was in the bush?
Yes. Was there any other abusive behaviors throughout the relationship that you could think of, or things that just bothered you in general, besides the reading of your journal and the isolating you from your friends and family?
He tried to control what I was wearing by taking pictures of me that he felt if I was dressed inappropriately to go out, he would try to follow me with a phone to make me change my clothes. He would just start accusing me of being with people all the time, and like at any point, first thing in the morning, last thing in the night, he just started to talk about things that he claimed he dreamed about. He would dream about me being with people and decide that those dreams are true. What else, boy? I tell you about his talking.
Yeah.
He would, if he's angry, he would go outside in the vehicle and park in front of the house, so that I am left to take care of the child by myself inside, and he is outside. And, if I decide, okay, I want to go for a walk, he would drive off. So I have to stay home with the child, but he must be like a watchman outside the house. He tried to lock me inside the house when I wanted to just get away from him, accusing me all morning. I just needed some silence. So I called a taxi to go, and he decided I cannot go. Of course, he thinking I having sexual intercourse with the driver. When I tried to escape, he locked me inside, take away the keys. I found through one of the doors that he didn't.
He locked you in the house?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so he taxi outside waiting, and I can't come out of the house. And I telling him open the door, open the door. And he don't want to open the door. So I found well, we had a business in front of the house, and that door locks from the inside. So I opened that lock and I went in the car with my stuff. And before the taxi could pull up, well, he stood up in front of the taxi, he unlocked the door and come in front of the taxi, and put my child on my lap without any clothes or food for her. Well, for the child. And so it kind of left me in a position where, okay, what can I do today? How can I really get that peace of mind? And so in other words, he was trying to make my child into a burden. That's what I was realizing. Okay. So I'm home alone with the child all the time. He outside, he not helping. I want some time off, I must carry the child. And it reminded me a lot of my mom growing up. It's basically, he used to go through my trash too, go through my clothes and accuse me of things that, real inappropriate based on my clothes and the garbage.
Wow.
Yeah.
And was there ever a time of separation in the relationship where, you separated from him, where you thought this was enough and I just need some time away from you?
Yes, that happened for about 2 months. I went to live somewhere else, and it was challenging because I had my child with me, and it was at the beginning of the COVID lockdown. So going to the bank, going to the grocery, doing things. He took the vehicle.
Okay.
Right? So it was, I didn't want to have this toddler with me in the bank and in the grocery. So I just was real, again, isolated. And then I didn't have a support system because I was fresh out of the relationship, and it was kind of, I didn't know how to reach out to people, honestly. Socialization skills, zero. And now getting back into it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was a lonely and difficult time, and I ended up going back to him after the 2 months.
What made you rekindle? Just the frustration of the isolation and the support system, or was there promises of him, from him, that he would change?
Of course, crocodile tears, promises. I videotape him promising, just so I could be like, remember when you said this? Yeah, it was a lot of promises that as soon as I got back home, I didn't even unpack stuff. It started to happen again.
Okay.
Honestly, yeah, I didn't have time to put things back in place. It started to happen again, and it was worse.
So, after your rekindled relationship, after the 2 month separation, how long after, could you remember, how long after it was you finally decided to separate?
Yeah, 3 months. 3 months after that. After I came back home to him, I left for good 3 months after that.
And what made you leave this time?
This time, well, I had basically one more person who I know would be there for me no matter what, and that's my mom. And we were supposed to go and spend a lot of time by her. And I told him before we left, I said, hey, I know that you like to try to cause drama between me and people close to me, but you see, my mom, asking you kindly to just leave her out of any of your thoughts and whatever. Any problem you have with me, talk to me first. And, I try to set a boundary. Silly me, you're not really supposed to set boundaries with insane people.
Yeah.
So, reaching there, what's the first thing that he decides to do? Well, he decides to unload a whole bag of images of things that he saw in my diaries and things that he took up from the garbage to show my mother. So, yeah, I was like, no, I'm not going to that with you. This happened already, and I kind of fed up with that. I think I deserve better, and the child deserves better from a parent. That kind of example, I don't feel that healthy.
Okay, and then you separated for good.
For good. Started to work on the divorce for good.
All right, and well, by this time, you said you would be living. You were living with your mom, or
yeah,
you had your mom, so you had some sort of support system.
Exactly.
A lot of people underestimate the lack of support in their life, but from all the reading, from all the information, from all the research based on people's genuine experience with IPV, they will tell you that, support is important in order to empower yourself to live.
Yeah. And somehow the manipulator knows that, and they always try to cut off your support. That's the first thing he did. He started complaining about me lying and drinking. I said, all right, well, that makes sense. Honestly, I getting old. I shouldn't be drinking. So, of course, I cut off all the friends he's drink with. He started complaining about my male friends. So, I cut off all the male friends. So he left with a few female friends. And he started finding qualities in them that he don't like. And then he started to make suggestions that he's sleeping with them to make me feel uncomfortable about being close. It was like everything is a problem. Then my family, so it just kept going and going and going. So they know, we don't know, as the victim, you're thinking, well, I could do this, man, other people do this, but you don't know how the manipulator know you're not supposed to have support. Could this break it down?
Did you experience any kind of similarities, or did you know about his past relationship?
Yes.
And
yes.
Would you say that he was abusive based on things that he did or said about his ex, or maybe things that, I don't know if you talked to his ex and she told you stuff, or, was he abusive in his previous relationships?
Yes, he was. And I believed his side of the story, unfortunately. And I thought I was so special. I thought, that can't happen to me.
You?
Yes, silly me, right? I was thinking, she just this, she just that. He painted this whole picture of this girl to be such a evil, bad, she had so much boyfriends and holding him all the time. But anybody he talked to about me would think the same.
Yeah.
And that was what really calmed me down, like, wow, and I started to see everything clear as day. That, hey, this girl, she probably was just a normal person dealing with this crazy man as well.
There were lots of behaviors that he displayed.
Mm-hmm.
Before the major incidents, or before you realized, hey, this person is abusive.
Yeah.
Right? But only in looking back now, you realize, hey, he had an agenda.
Yes. Yeah, I thought it was love, though. I thought that he wanted to spend all his time with me. And really and truly, maybe I have some ways that I could fix. So I started to justify the things he was saying.
Yeah.
Because I wanted the love. I wanted that whole experience, the whole 9 yards. You see yourself getting old with this person. You have such good conversations with them, so much in common. So you're willing to sacrifice yourself and your happiness in order to make them happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you ignore them flags. So you're like, nah, man, like small thing. I could do without friends. He's my friend, though. He's my friend. He will always be there.
Now that, I don't want to ask you why you didn't choose to walk away sooner, but what are some of the reasons? Because a lot of people assume, you should just leave, but it's not that easy. What are some reasons that you waited before finally deciding to walk away? I think you had mentioned before, having that nuclear family unit.
Yeah, definitely. I really wanted, if I start from the beginning, I think I wanted to be married, first of all.
Yeah.
Because in our culture, in this Caribbean culture, every time I see a nice girl, young, pretty, ambitious, so when you're married, girl, when you go and get married, where the children, and they start to harass you from your close family to your friends, so people you don't even know.
Yeah.
People you don't even know this person, and they're watching you and want to know when you're going to get married. You're like, but how is that your problem? And so there's this pressure that exists on the female in society to put aside your personal goals in order to achieve this family unit. So that's one. And then there was also a union in me to be a part of a nuclear family, which I missed out on growing up. And well, when I finally got my daughter, I felt a certain level of responsibility to keeping her with having her two parents. I felt like I had to sacrifice a lot to make that happen. I tried. We went to therapy. I bought all sorts of books. We did all these exercises together. That just didn't work. Didn't work. And next thing is that I thought that everything he said was right. When you don't have people to talk to, right, and the person who you trust and love the most telling you certain things in a repetitive way, after a while you're going to believe what he's saying, And it took me a real long, even when we separate, I still used to think that what he was saying was true. I used to catch myself just doubting myself, having all these negative emotions, and it's almost like I have his voice in my head still, telling me that what I want to do is not for me, and what you doing that for, and you don't really need those things, and The little simple things that will make me happy, I question myself for wanting happiness for myself.
Oh.
You know? So I think in many ways just his voice in my head, convincing me that I am always wrong about my feelings, just crushing them and tearing them to pieces, You're not supposed to feel those feelings.
If you can, describe how it was, the easiest and the most difficult thing about, I guess, about the relationship, before the abusive behavior began.
The easiest and the most difficult thing. Okay. Well, the easy part, I never felt so completely in love. I felt that this person was the one because he said all the right things and did all the right things. He held my hand across the street. He was very much into public displays of affection. So I felt in love because I was like, wow, this person has to really love me to take time off from work to want to spend all the time with me. He wants to know where I am all the time. This has to be something good. I never experienced this before, right? He was always there for me and always supportive. The difficult part, it had no everything was just going so well to me, I guess the difficult part which I overcame was to ignore the red flags. But with the love in place, that was a breeze as well.
And what about during the relationship, while experiencing the abuse? What was the easiest and most difficult thing?
The difficult part, I could start with that, while experiencing the abuse was the feelings of loneliness and depression. I contemplated suicide many times because I felt that I wouldn't be missed and I wanted to end my life and end the misery that I was experiencing. So that's the difficult part, right? The easiest thing was believing him and falling for his crocodile tears and hoping he would change. So, when you're at that low point, anything you hear that could possibly make you feel a little bit better, you just fall for it because, you don't want to be how you're feeling then. So he creates this problem for you to be feeling like crap. And then he come and he gives you a solution, which he not holding out to you. You know it in your heart too, but you just don't want to feel like that anymore.
Yeah.
So, accept it. So it come like this big circle just happening in shorter time spaces, but it's continuously happening.
And what about now, presently, after you left the relationship? What is the easiest part for you and the most difficult part?
Well, I start with the most difficult part after leaving was dealing with feelings of inadequacy and failure due to ending the marriage. Like just having to tell people, not with him anymore. That feeling of what is that, boy? I feel embarrassed. I feel ashamed, as if I did something bad by ending. We have people who, well, we married long time and he do all kind of thing and I deal with him and you start to feel
it's glorified to have that long marriage status. We've been married 20-something years, and that's actually one of the reasons why people stay, because of the shame and embarrassment of the idea of a failed marriage.
Yeah. You start to feel like, you're not that strong, like all these strong women out there and you're so weak. You couldn't take that, he won, yeah? And they ask you a question as well, if he can do these things, then why you leave him? What's the big deal? Right? That kind of way. And then having to bring up the child now in a single parent household, I really didn't want to go through that, so that was difficult to accept. Just accepting that, that could be okay too. That's all right,
Yeah. So you would say that you have to remodel or restructure your ideas on what a family should look like, what a healthy relationship should look like.
Of course.
Right. And now adapt all your behaviors and all your decisions now to suit that now.
Yeah, and that was very hard. That was the hardest thing, to let go of the ideals and try to remodel your thinking into something else. Because have plenty ways, it's not just this one thing that people keep pushing. Since you're small, thinking this is how it's supposed to be, but not really. Things happen, people change, people grow. Life is dynamic.
The easiest part of leaving for you.
Right. Well, smiling, feeling free, happy, doing things that I always wanted to do, but I felt like I couldn't. Like the first thing I went and I did, I always wanted to ride horses. And he used to just act like, that's what you want to do, and always like make it sound like that's something bad to do. I don't know, I can't remember the reasoning, but I never did it, right?
Yeah.
So I'll make sure I save up my money, and that was the first thing that I did. I felt so proud of myself. And then there was COVID lockdown, so not much I could do right now, but I intend to do things like dancing, things that I denied myself because he didn't like it.
Yeah.
Wow, I anticipate that freedom, and I look forward to it because I know that I will be able to.
And now that, we talk about all of this, do you believe that you experienced intimate partner violence?
In the beginning, I didn't. Before I met you, no, I didn't think so. I just thought we were misguided because I thinking it didn't the physical abuse.
Be physical, right?
Yes, yes.
It had to be an attack of your body.
Yes.
Something.
Yeah.
To be intimate partner violence.
I said, because nobody's telling you what you're supposed to look out for. You're thinking, well, maybe if you get cussed up, that's not good. You tell yourself that, but the person not cussing, that don't mean that they're not abusing you,
Yeah.
You have other ways you can tell people things. So, it's a lot to it, and it's a matter of knowledge. I didn't know. If you didn't point out to me, I would never have thought that.
Yeah. But did you ever believe that you would be a victim of intimate partner violence?
No, and especially not with this person. He made himself out to be that knight in shining armor, that prince. From the Prince kind of real fairy tale story. I would never have expected this outcome.
And do you think, none of this was your fault, and none of this is, the question is not geared to putting you on the spot, but do you think you could have done anything differently?
I would say that if I learned about setting boundaries and even to counseling before marriage, things may have been different. However, manipulative people have a way of pretending.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, I'm telling myself he had some plots and plans from a long time. And if it's just a coincidence, well then maybe it would have happened through counseling too. As I say that, I'm thinking that if I knew about boundaries, maybe I would have tried to set them from early. And when he crossed them, it would not go that far.
If it's in the bud.
Yeah, I'm glad you say that. Because if I knew back then, I would not just know it and not apply it. So the application of the knowledge is important. Once he crossed it a couple of times, it would not reach so far. He would not have time to propose or nothing, rather than see the flags just blaring there and say, nah, you are not the one for me. But I didn't know.
But actually, one of the first issues, if it's things that could be, it depends on the extent of the abuse, you would say, before you decide the action to take. Right? So if he has some controlling behavior, they go to counseling, and it's good to set boundaries in the beginning of the relationship.
Yeah, before counseling.
This is not something everybody is told before going into a relationship.
You don't even know what is a boundary.
Yeah.
I didn't come across that until I was reading about codependency, and that's a book I find on the internet randomly. People don't talk about these things.
But look at it, you actually decided to pick up and read. There are so many women out there who, maybe they're not as willing to read. Maybe they can't read as well.
Yeah.
It depends on your education, your access to information. This is one of my goals of this project, to take information that is in a research paper, to take information that as a criminology student you're privy to, and put it in such a way that it's comprehensible and it's there for the layperson, for everybody to understand. Right? And what you think your partner could have done differently?
I think he needed personal one-on-one therapy in addition to couples therapy. He needed help.
That's definitely not the least question. Because one of the reasons for doing this interview is to expose to other women what it felt like to go through a relationship where you were being abused. And, your experience would have been different because you came out of it alive, you came out of it, functioning. So some people, it's not the same for them. Intimate violence could lead to some people being liberated, and then some people dying, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Because of the abuse. So what would you say to those who experience intimate partner violence at the moment? Or what advice would you give them?
I wrote this one down. I said, get a support system and get out. So you first thing, get a support system and get out. Also, love yourself more than you love them for a change. Love yourself more than you love them for a change. It will be worth it. It won't be easy, but it will be worth it. you'll respect yourself more, and your kids will respect you for making the big move. You should always try to show them what is right.
I love that. So you give them a healthier idea of what a relationship should look like.
Yeah.
And well, that's it for all the questions I have. Anything else you want to discuss or see or talk about?
No, that was it. This one's real good. This one's real good. Thank you for allowing me to share my story. I appreciate this very much, Dan.
I would like to thank you for sharing your story. Not many people are brave enough to tell their stories or confront it immediately. Not a lot of people like to be open about it. So as much as we would be blinding for identifying information, you still take a big brave step in telling your story.
If you or anyone you know has been a victim of intimate partner violence or any type of other domestic violence, please take note of the following agencies on the screen and their contact numbers for help. If you're experiencing or you're currently witnessing any sort of violence, please contact the emergency services at 999 or 555 for immediate assistance.